What's up, carnivores? Zach here with American Smoke, and today we're doing the maiden voyage of the Camp Chef Woodwind Pro 36. And what better way to do it than with a 20-pound prime brisket, low and slow. Y'all know that when I got a new smoker, I was gonna do it right, and so today we're gonna prepare this brisket, we're gonna trim it up, we're gonna get it in the smoke. It's gonna be in there for a long time, and it'll be done sometime tomorrow. So let's go ahead, get into this brisket, get it trimmed up, get it seasoned, and get it in the smoke. Okay, so we just got this thing trimmed up. It looks a whole lot better. I had to remove a massive amount of fat, which I'm super stoked about in a way, and also kind of disappointed in. You know, I bought a 20-pound brisket. I was expecting to lose 40%, so I was expecting to have 12 pounds of cooked meat at the end, and that's not gonna be the case. We lost half this thing to fat. This must have been like the fattest cow on the block. You know, everybody called him Big C or something like that. I don't know, no doubt about it. This guy, girl, whatever kind of cow that it was, ruled the food trough at breakfast time, lunchtime, and dinner time, no doubt about it. But we've got a very pretty trimmed up brisket now. I'm really happy with the way that it's turned out. I did this more of a really aggressive style trim just because I want to do it right. We're going to keep this, we're going to grind this up into brisket burger in a future video, and we're going to smoke all of this down into tallow. So I'm going to have a ton of beef tallow for future content coming up. We're going to go ahead and get on with the next phase of this cook. I'm super pumped up about it. We're about to fire up the Camp Chef Woodwind Pro. Got my little girls over here playing, so y'all are going to have to put up with that. Let's go ahead, fire this thing up. We're gonna be running this thing the whole time at 225 degrees. It's gonna go through the startup, fire up the fire pot. Meanwhile, we're gonna go ahead and add some water into our water pan that I'm gonna be running. This is also gonna act as a drip tray to catch a lot of the drippings that would otherwise dirty up my brand new pit that I have not put full on the drip tray, so I'm gonna have to be dealing with that. But that's okay, it's been a busy day. Y'all see what I'm dealing with over here. They're cray, and I mean cray. While that's going ahead and getting started, takes about 7 minutes. We're gonna go ahead and get our seasoning on the brisket. Today, for seasoning this brisket, we're using some of Craig's brisket seasoning. This stuff is awesome. We're gonna go fat side up on this brisket. I'm gonna go pretty heavy with this seasoning. I want a good crust on it. The reason I'm not using a binder on this is I saw something recently that talked about if you put a thick binder on your brisket, then the bark can actually flake off, and I don't want that. Let's go ahead and pat this on. We're gonna roll up these edges and go ahead and get some of this on the edges. No edge left behind on this maiden voyage for my brand new Camp Chef Woodwind. I'm so pumped up. Don't get me wrong, I love my pit boss and it's not going anywhere. Don't y'all worry about that. But, you know, it was time. I've been making content on that pit boss for 2 years now, and I'm gonna keep making content on it, but it's time to get a little bit more variety on the channel. We're gonna go ahead and get it covered heavy on the top. I am not scared of creating a bark with my rub. We're gonna let this sweat on while the Camp Chef comes up to temp, but this is looking fantastic. Just wanna check all my edges, make sure that I didn't miss anything, and I think that looks pretty darn good right there. I don't know what y'all think, but I think that it's looking fire. I can hear the burn pot firing up in there. We're gonna shut it down and let it come up to temp while this sweats on, and then we're gonna go ahead and get the brisket into the Camp Chef. We'll see y'all in just a little bit. So one of the last things that we need to do with this unit, which is super cool, is put actual wood chunks into the second burn pot that renders smoke directly from wood or charcoal or whatever it is that you want to put in there. You can put wood chips. Today we got some hickory chunks. All you do is just pull that out of there, drop in your wood chunks, close it back up. Then we open up this valve, which allows the fire from the pellet burn pot to reach the wood, let that go for about 5 to 10 minutes, and that's going to ignite those wood chunks, and then that is going to send more wood flavor onto my brisket. And so in about 10 minutes, I'm gonna close it up and then it'll just smolder until that wood's gone, and then we'll be adding some more. The brisket has been in there for about 2 hours now, and so it's time to open up, take a look, and give it a little spritz of half and half water and apple cider vinegar. Wow, 2 hours in, already got some beautiful color, but you can see that it is starting to dry out a little bit, so that means this is exactly what we need. I'm gonna actually give it a nice little soak, because I ain't coming back down here for another 2.5, 3 hours. Don't want to wash my seasoning off, but fat's rendering down. By the time this thing gets ready for the foil boat, which is what we're gonna be doing, I'll be able to just dip that fat out of there with a spoon. All right, carnivores, so we are in the heat of the stall. We have been in the woodwind for right at 10 hours, and we are currently sitting at 168 degrees in the flat and a surprising 189 degrees in the point. I want to go ahead and get this thing into the boat and get it wrapped up. We're going to speed up the cook of the flat just a little bit and hopefully get on up to that 203, 205 mark. Learning a little bit about the woodwind tonight. Apparently where the fatty end is, or the point, is a little hotter. And we have got a beautiful bark on this brisket. Already got a pretty good bit of flex to it. Flat, still feels stiff. The point though, getting there, baby. Look at that bark. So I tried to let this cook a little bit further into the stall. I wanted to get the flat a little closer to about 170 or 180 degrees before I pulled it, just so that some more of the water could cook out, because I don't want it to cook out and down into the foil and soften up the bottom a whole lot. We're just going to go ahead and boat this up. Don't get no fresher than that right there, baby. Don't get no fresher than that. And this will kind of help to reduce the amount of softening on the bottom. Fat is going to pull in and have a lot of a different effect than some of the moisture, some of the water that might cook out. Something about using this brisket's own rendered tallow as opposed to getting it from another source. I just like that idea. I mean, that right there is just thing of beauty. But it's ready to go back in now. We're going to probe it back up, get it back in there for the remainder of the cook. I am going to reposition it to where my flat is more over this side. Slow down my point a little bit. That stick right there felt really good. It's already very, very soft. Let's get it closed back up. And we'll be back out here when the sun's up. It's about 5:30 right now. The roosters in my neighborhood have been having some sort of argument. I don't know what that's about, but see y'all in a bit. Okay, so it's officially time. We are at 203 degrees in the flat, or the lean portion of the brisket, and we are at 206 degrees in the point, or the fatty portion of the brisket. So we're gonna go ahead and pull it out of the smoker and get it onto the table. Then we're gonna let it come down to about 160 degrees internal. We'll be placing it back in the smoker to rest at 145, 150 degrees chamber temp until it is time for me to cut it up and eat it. Let's get it out of there and have a look. Let's give it a little bit of a crow test. Oh yeah, baby. Like butter. Like butter. Just falls through there. There's still just a slight amount of, it's a real slight amount of tug in the flat. The flat is never going to be as tender as the point. Let's see if we can get this out of here without making a gigantic mess. Don't know that I will be able to. Take a look at our tallow. Really cooking down nicely. Pretty pleased with how much it's rendered. I may try to get a little bit more out of that, but very pleased with how that's going to come out. Take a look at it. Oh, mama. Because it's going to continue to tender up during the rest. So I've still got a small amount of tug in the flat, but as it rests and continues to render down a little bit and soak up more of the heat, and just the fat pulls back up in a little bit, it's going to tender up a bit more. We're probably going to try to go for about 5 or 6 hours on this rest until my girls nap time, at which point in time is dada time to get something done. Looks absolutely perfect. The bark is phenomenal. All we added was that Craig's brisket seasoning onto there, and we are just nailing the color on this thing. It is absolutely squishy almost all over and hot enough to hurt my finger. Ow. We'll let this come down, get it back in the smoke here in just a minute. Okay, so it's been resting for about 6.5 hours now. Let's get it out of the smoke and onto the Drip Easy cutting board. Smoker has held a constant 155, 160 degrees. You can definitely tell it has squatted a little bit more and taken on maybe even a little bit more color. Don't feel me now, tinfoil. Woo. You know I'm from the country when I call it tinfoil. So we have got a flexible, squishy brisket ready to go, baby. This action going, some of that leftover tallow. Woohoo! Man, I love it, I love it, I love it. All right, let's get a couple slices on this brisket and see. So if any part's going to be dry, it's going to be down here on the end of the flat. Get a few slices. And it smells phenomenal. That Craig's, I think it's a winner, baby. Craig's brisket seasoning. Tender. You want to talk about tender? Little pull on that flat. Very tender. Super tender. Great smoke penetration. Check out the smoke ring. Oh. So good. Oh my gosh. Just tear apart, juicy. We haven't even gotten into the point yet. The fat is just almost completely rendered out. Oh my gosh. Man, that's fire. Very pleased. The flavor, the smokiness, the juiciness. So good. Let's go ahead and get a cut right out of the center right here, and then we'll get into the point and see how that fatty end is doing. You just gotta love cutting into that point. You know that you got all the juices in that end, all the fat in that end, and man, it's just beautifully rendered, beautifully cooked brisket. So happy with how this turned out. Just how I like it. Just how I like it. So we've got a beautiful cut up here, leaving it in the foil, open in the air during the during the rest just produced an extraordinarily almost crispy crust on the flat. If you're looking for a new solid brisket seasoning, put Craig's on your list. But if you're looking for a way to get an extraordinary crust on a brisket, try that full boat method and leave it warming in the smoker. Man, it is phenomenal. Like, next level taste and texture. Super bite through. Let's slide this over a skosh and we'll get into the point a little bit. This is going to be your burnt ends right here. Tell me that's not pretty. That's that flavor packed right there. Flavor packed. That hickory smoke. Good Lord. Do some thicker slices down here on this point. It's so tender, you got to be real careful with it. Just almost all of that fat is rendered out. Beautiful cuts. Beautiful cuts of this meteorite. Dang, man. We're going to cut this up and make burnt ends out of it. Check that out. Wow, that is just something to behold. Guys, if you have any questions about how I did this, let me know. Come on over to American Smoked Carnivores on Facebook, and it's a great group. We'll see you in there. Thanks for watching. Smoke on, and I'll see y'all in the next video. That's so good. The briskets. The briskets. The brisket.